Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitantam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitanscha Namom Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurtushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shriradha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpatarurvyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Studying Sri Ishopanishad, and today we'll discuss mantras 7 and 8. The theme that is being discussed is the vision of oneness. Whose vision is this? This is the vision of an Uttamadhikari Vaishnava, the highest level of a devotee. That person sees everything in relationship to Krishna. So what that vision is was explained in the verses before, or the mantras before. That person is able to perceive the inconceivable nature of the Supreme Lord, how the Lord is a bundle of contradictions. And because of that, that person is also able to perceive Lord's presence everywhere. He's omnipresent. So a person can understand that. And that leads to a certain behavior of that person. So the vision that was explained, now mantra 7 is going to describe that further to a greater depth. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhutvijanataha tatra ko mohaka shoka ekatvam anupashyataha. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhutvijanataha tatra ko mohaka shoka. Such a person who has this kind of vision. So when Sri Vaishnavacharya Vedanta Deshika, he says, one who sees the Lord all-pervading, ekatvam anupashyataha, that person suffers from, does not suffer from lamentation. No lamentation. And neither does that person suffer from illusion. That person understands that everything belongs to Krishna. So because everything belongs to Krishna, I don't lose anything, I don't gain anything. After all, everything is with Krishna. My loss is not actually a loss. My gain is not my gain. Ultimately, everything is Krishna's property. So that person sees everything in oneness, ekatvam. The impersonalist scholars, sometimes they misuse the words given in the Sanskrit text, and they give their own wrong interpretation. Like, to give you an example, a few days ago, I was just browsing on Instagram. So I came across a short clip of one of the popular gurus. His name is Ravi Shankar. So someone asked him a question, who is Radha? Who is Radha? Can you please tell about the personality Radha? So he said, the word Radha is made up of two syllables, Ra and Dha. So he said, you interchange them. So you read them in the opposite manner. So then that would become Dhara. Dhara means flow, right? So which flows? That's called Dhara. Then he's saying, generally something flows away from the source. So that's Dhara. And Radha means that something flows backward. That's its meaning to the word Radha. Something that flows backward. So what he's trying to say is that you have come from the Supreme, so your love, your devotion should flow backward towards the Supreme. That's Radha. So in that way, if you have such devotion for the Supreme, so Radha is inside you. So don't worry whether Radha was a person or not. Radha is a concept. It's an idea. It's an abstract thing. So these kind of interpretations are given by such people. Basically, they play around with the words. Now his name is Ravi. Now let's do the same thing with his name also. So the opposite of Ravi will be Veera. Veera means strong. So then his name should mean someone who is not strong or who is powerless, right? So if you'll tell that meaning to him, he'll be pretty much offended. How can you say I'm powerless? I'm a very powerful person. I have so much influence on others, right? So these kind of jugglery they use, and they try to convey the meaning, which is not actually the real meaning. Similarly, here the word ekatvam is used. Ekatvam, the Mayavadis or the impersonalists will say, you see, you become one with the Lord. That's what is being told here, that you merge into the Supreme Lord and you become one with the Supreme Lord. But our acharyas explained that's not how you should take the meaning. So they say, here oneness does not mean only one entity. Rather, oneness means oneness in spirit or oneness in purpose. Oneness in the will. Okay, you want to do something, I cooperate with you, so we become one. It's like teaming up with the other person and working for the same cause. So that's ekatvam in reality. Srila Prabhupada says that to develop this vision of oneness, you cannot be on the platform of Rajaguna and Tamaguna and say, I'll work for the benefit of all the people in the world. Not possible. If you really want to benefit everyone in this world, then first of all, you have to rise to the platform of Sattva-guna, goodness. Then that actual vision of oneness will develop. And then a person can, in true spirit, benefit every single person that person comes across. So if there is any absolute oneness, then there won't be any question of someone teaching and someone learning the subject of Upanishad. We have discussed similar logic in Bhagavad-gita also. If everything is one or everyone is one, then why should there be a teacher, a guru, and why should there be a disciple? Because everything is after all one, right? There's no need of any guru or disciple. So the oneness here is explained in terms of oneness in relationship. Like this example is given from Ramayana. Rama Sugrivayor Aikyam. Rama and Sugriva, these are two personalities. Aikyam is they become one. So if you read a statement like this, Ram and Sugriv have become one, will it mean that Ram and Sugriv have merged into each other and become one personality? No. It will mean that Ram and Sugriv have come together, joined their hands together. Now they're going to work together, right? That's what the meaning is. Like, for example, someone is very, very tired and that person has lied down on the bed. So someone may say this person has become one with the bed. What you're trying to say is that this person is such a deep sleep that, this person is almost embracing the bed and doesn't want to leave the bed. Here, it doesn't mean that that person merged into the bed and has become bed. It's the way of speaking. Likewise, when the word 𝗪𝗵𝗹𝗹 is used in the scriptures, it basically means that the living entity has become one in spirit with the Supreme Lord. But people who are impersonalists, they derive wrong meanings out of it. Srila Prabhupada used to say that oneness in spirit with Krishna means Krishna's opinion is my opinion. Krishna's desire is my desire. Krishna's plan is my plan. That's oneness. It doesn't mean that all the individuals become homogeneous. No, they are one together for the same cause, right? And ekattvam also means that one should be able to see that one Lord in everyone's heart and also see everyone as a servant of the Lord. This is the difference between a Vaishnava and a non-Vaishnava. A non-Vaishnava, how does he divide the world? He divides the world, as Prahlad Maharaj says, in groups of friends and enemies. These people are my friends and these people are my enemies. But a devotee of Krishna will not see people as friends and enemies, but will see people as whether they are friendly to me or they are inimical to me. That's my own karma. But actually, they all are servants of Krishna in reality. That's their identity, that they are servants of Krishna. They might be behaving in a friendly manner towards me or in inimical manner towards me. That's just because of my own karma. In truth, who they are servants of Krishna, right? So that's the meaning that we have to take from this, this mantra. Let's read the translation. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him, for that person? Okay. First paragraph. Yes, Hanit Mataji, you can read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Purport. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Except for the Madhyama Adhikari and the Uttama Adhikari discussed above, no one can correctly see the spiritual position of a living being. The living entities are qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord, just as the sparks of a fire are qualitatively one with the fire. Yet sparks are not fire as far as quantity is concerned. For the quantity of heat and light present in the sparks is not equal to that in fire. The Mahabhagavata, the great devotee, sees oneness in the sense that he sees everything as the energy of the Supreme Lord. Since there is no difference between the energy and the energetic, there is the sense of oneness. Although from the analytical point of view, heat and light are different from fire, there is no meaning to the word fire without heat and light. In synthesis, therefore, heat, light, and fire are the same.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
So this is the vision of a Uttamadhikari or a Madhyamadhikari, because they're in knowledge. So they're able to see like that everything is connected to the Supreme Lord. Everything is an energy of the Supreme Lord. And because everything is an energy of the Supreme Lord, I should use everything in that Supreme Lord's service or seva. That's the vision. Everything means here everyone also. That people around me, things around me, whatever I have, it's all to be used in Krishna service. Okay, paragraph number B. Navnidhi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam.
Dhanvad.
The spiritual entities are meant for enjoyment, as stated in Vedanta Sutra 1.1.12, Anandamayo Bhayasat. By nature and constitution, every living being, including the Supreme Lord and each of his parts and parcels, is meant for eternal enjoyment. The living beings who are engaged in material tabernacle are constantly seeking enjoyment. but they are seeking it on the wrong platform. Apart from the material platform is the spiritual platform, where the Supreme Being enjoys himself with his innumerable associates. On that platform, there is no trace of material qualities, and therefore that platform is called Nirguna. On the Nirguna platform, there is never a clash over the object of enjoyment. Here in the material world, there is always a clash between different individual beings because here the proper center of enjoyment is missed. The real center of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord, who is the center of the sublime and spiritual rasa dance. We are all meant to join him and enjoy life with one transcendental interest and without any clash. That is the highest platform of spiritual interest, and as soon as one realizes this perfect form of oneness, there can be no question of illusion, moha, or lamentation, shoka. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the coming together of living entities and cooperatively serving together the Supreme Lord, that is technically the definition of rasa dance. Rasa dance not just means that the gopis are dancing with Krishna, that's called rasa dance. Rasa dance means all the personalities who are connected to Krishna as devotees of Krishna, they're coming together to give pleasure to Krishna. So anyone who is serving Krishna in that spirit, that person is a member of the rasa dance, because that person is giving pleasure to Krishna. Now, this is what kind of explanation? The explanation which I just gave now, from what we have studied in Ishopanishad. You know, which perspective is this out of the three perspectives given by Srila Madhvacharya?
Metaphorical.
Metaphorical, very good, thank you. Metaphorical perspective, but it doesn't mean we don't accept the literal perspective. It's not, we don't say no, there were no gopis, there was no rasa dance, Krishna is not there dancing with the gopis. No, if you just take the metaphorical aspect, it's incomplete understanding. So literal understanding is also there, that the gopis are dancing with Krishna in rasa dance. Can someone who's unmuted mute oneself? Right? So that's literal explanation or understanding. But the metaphorical understanding is what? Here the gopis are represented by anyone who is engaging in devotional service with the mood of giving pleasure to Krishna. And that person is a part of the rasa dance. Without any clash, Prabhupada says. So this is what is explained in this diagram, actually. You can understand. Wait a second, I'm sorry. So oneness means you serve the interest of the Lord. So this is explained by Srila Prabhupada in the paragraph, that Krishna is put in the center, and then there are concentric circles drawn around that center. So these circles, they don't have a clash because they have one center, which means there won't be any clash of ego. People will not be fighting on what's going to make me happy and what's going to make the other person happy. They will all be thinking about what's going to make Krishna happy. And this is the only way to keep people united in spirit. No clash. As long as people keep themselves in the center, or they keep some of their own agendas in the center, they keep their material desires in the center, they keep someone else in the center other than Krishna, there'll be clash. There'll be fight, friction, quarrel, hatred. But if they keep Krishna in the center, actually, then there won't be any clash, and there won't be any problems arising out of such experience, right? So this is what is being explained here for personal application. Then how do we understand the spirit of ekatvam? Srila Prabhupada gives example that we are qualitatively one with the Lord, just like Spark of fire is qualitatively one with fire. Drop of water in the ocean is qualitatively one with the ocean. But we are quantitatively not equal, but we are one in spirit. He gives the example of family. All the members of the family, they are having same interest. I mean, they should have the same interest. All the people living in the nation, they have the same interest. Let this nation grow. Let this nation win. Let this nation be successful. And why we are not quantitatively one? So these are the reasons. Because we are part and parcel of the whole. How can a part be equal to the whole? And Rupa Goswami says we only have 80% of qualities of Krishna, not 100% qualities of Krishna. That too, not in 100% quantity. We have those 80% qualities in minute quantity. So that's again, which makes us quantitatively not equal to Krishna. But qualitatively one, we are. Yeah. Let's read the next paragraph. Okay. Ragini Mataji, please read this paragraph.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Right.
The result of our activity must be used to serve the interest of the Lord and not for any other purpose. Only by serving the Lord interest can we perceive the Atma Bhuta interest mentioned herein, the Atma Bhuta interest mentioned in the mantra, and the Brahma Bhuta interest mentioned in the Bhagavad-gita 18.54 sloka are one and the same. The Supreme Atma or soul is the Lord himself, and the minutes Atma in the living entity. The Supreme Atma or Paramatma alone maintain all the individual minutes being, for the Supreme Lord want to derive pleasure out of their affection. The Father extend himself through his children and maintain them in order to derive pleasures. If the children obey the Father's will, family affairs will run smoothly with one interest and a pleasing atmosphere. The same situation is transcendently arranged in the absolute family of the Para Brahma, the supreme spiritual. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
We just discussed what that means. Last paragraph. Okay. Ratnangi, Lakshmi Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
The Parabrahman is as much a person as the individual entities. Neither the Lord nor the living entities are impersonal. Such transcendental personalities are full of transcendental bliss, knowledge, and life eternal. That is the real position of spiritual existence. And as soon as one is fully cognizant of this transcendental position, he at once surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Being, Sri Krishna. But such a Mahatma or great soul is very rarely seen, because such transcendental realization is achieved only after many, many births. Once it is attained, however, there is no longer any illusion or lamentation, or the miseries of material existence of birth and death, which are all experienced in our present life. That is the information we get from this mantra of Sri Ishopanishad.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Okay, so now if I ask you this question, what the oneness actually is and what the oneness is not, how will you answer that? What actually the oneness is and what the oneness is not?
Oneness is in qualitatively oneness and not in quantitatively.
Okay, qualitatively we are one, but quantitatively we are not one. That's the understanding, right? Qualitatively we are one, quantitatively we are not one. And just that simple understanding is technically, can you please keep yourself on mute? That simple understanding is technically called Achintya bhed abhed tattva. This term was coined by Srila Jiva Goswami. He said, Achintya bhed abhed tattva. Achintya means inconceivable. Bheda means difference. Abheda means oneness. Tattva. All right? That they are simultaneously one and different. Together. Both you have to accept. This is considered as the highest philosophical understanding of absolute truth. There were other understandings also given before by different other acharyas, but they were not complete. Swati Mataji, you have to keep yourself on mute. There were different understandings given by different acharyas before Lord Chaitanya. So some of them emphasized too much on the oneness. Some of them emphasized too much on the difference. And some of them emphasized something in between. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, you have to accept both the factors. Now, in one of the mantras, we'll discuss how in any relationship, if you emphasize too much on either one of these aspects, that relationship does not become a healthy relationship. For any relationship to be healthy relationship, you have to emphasize both the aspects. What are they? You have to be similar to that person. At the same time, you have to have some differences from that person. Then that relationship grows in a very nice manner. Otherwise, it doesn't. It comes to a stagnancy. So we'll discuss that in some other mantra. All right. Now, what is the interest of the Lord? This is explained here. First point, why did the Supreme Lord create us? So Srila Prabhupada used to give an example. Why did your parents create you? Your parents created you so that you can become a source of pleasure for them. You can give them happiness. You add to their happiness, right? That's the reason parents bring up children, that they add to the happiness of the family. Similarly, why the Lord has created us? The Lord has created us so that we add to his happiness. It may sound a bit selfish in the beginning, but when the parents create the child for their happiness, it doesn't mean that the child suffers. No. The child also enjoys along with the parents, right? Similarly, when the Supreme Lord has created us, it will also give us pleasure if we join hands together for that purpose. We'll also be happy. And that's what is the real happiness of a jiva, to cooperate with the plans of Krishna, to work together with Krishna, to accept Krishna's plans as one's own plans. That makes jiva very happy, satisfied in life completely, because now that jiva is doing what he or she is supposed to do. Okay. So that's all in this mantra. It was very simple. So now I think some of you have some questions, technical questions. You can ask that. You can unmute yourself and ask that now.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
I just put in the chat, actually, in the chat box. We are all having unique nature for ourselves, guna. So when we say that in the spiritual world, there is no, everything will be having sameness, will not have any difference, we'll all be happy. So
no, it's
how
not
is it
like
possible
that.
Then what is this to understand with the word nirguna here? We have a unique guna, and that unique guna becomes nirguna. So
okay,
can you please explain?
So the word guna has two meanings. One meaning of the word guna is one of the three modes of material nature. Sattva guna, raja guna, tama guna. Right? So when it says we are nirguna, or the Lord is nirguna, or the spiritual sky is nirguna, it means to say it is beyond the three modes of material nature. Okay. Now the another meaning of the word guna is characteristics or attributes or qualities. Like the guna of sugar is sweet. The guna of water is liquidity. Yeah. So when we say nirguna, this is not negated. The meaning that the impersonalists take is that no qualities at all. Nirguna means no qualities. But actually it means you have qualities, but you don't have material qualities. You are beyond the three modes. So therefore you are nirguna. So when we say the living entity is nirguna, we should take the meaning that it is without any material qualities. When the word is used, it is saguna, then we should take the meaning it is full of spiritual qualities. Understanding? So when we are in the spiritual world, materially speaking, we won't have any difference because there won't be any material body, there won't be any material mind, there won't be any material intelligence. So why will there be a difference on material terms? But spiritually speaking, there will be difference because you will have a different nature and the other person will have a different nature. However, this difference is not material difference, it is a spiritual difference. Right? Now, when we have not reached there, we are still in the material world. So from my perspective, when I'm in the material world, my next goal cannot be directly jumping to that spiritual reality when I have spiritual differences than you. My next immediate goal would be, let us first of all reject all these material differences and accept we are all same. Right? And after we have accepted that, then we will work on the next part that we are also spiritually different, step by step. You're understanding? Like if, for example, you want to bring people together. So how will you do that? You will tell, oh, we are all Bengalis, let's come together. Or we are all Telugus, let's come together. Or we are all from Middle East, let's come together, correct? You'll try to find a common unifying factor. That time you'll not see the difference that this is a rich Bengali, this is a poor Bengali, right? This Bengali is learned, this Bengali is not so learned. That time you don't see the difference. You see the commonness and you unify them together. But once you have made a society and organization of all those Bengali people, then will you not give different roles and responsibility based on the differences they have? Yes, this person is a treasurer, this person is a vice president, this person is this person is that. So that's how in spiritual life also, in order to bring us out of material vision, first it said, don't look at the differences, just look at the similarity, just look at the oneness factor, so that you come out of that material consciousness. But once you become situated in that spirit of oneness, then a person who develops his consciousness further will be able to see, though we are one, we are also a bit different from each other. Right? So it's complete understanding. All right. Any other question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can I ask?
Yes, Vaishnava.
Prabhuji, so qualitatively also we are not 100% similar to the Lord.
No, not even qualitatively. Qualitatively also only 80%.
Which is 80%. I'm just trying, because that salt example is given. So how do you actually distinguish what is that 20% that we don't have?
Those are specific qualities which Krishna has. It's given in Bhakti-sastri Sindhu.
Okay.
Yeah, these are specific qualities. Like in Bhakti-sastri Sindhu, it's mentioned Krishna has 64 qualities. So then a jiva can only have 50 of them.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Then you divide 50 by 64, it comes to around 80%, 78%. That's rounded up to 80%.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
That's the difference. All right. Yes. Uttam Indulekha Mataji, you have a question? No. Surekha Mataji, question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Sadhu Pranam. Yes, Prabhuji, I have a question. Prabhuji, actually, this question my son asked me. As we are discussing that Lord wants pleasure, so he made jivas, right? So my son questioned on this point only, that how we can say that he wants pleasure because he is Atmaram, and if he is Atmaram, he is self-satisfied. Why does he find pleasure from anywhere else? And if he wants pleasure from anyone else, how can we say that he is Atmaram?
Okay, it's a very good question. So the Lord is Atmaram because it said that he enjoys himself. And at the same time, the Lord creates the jivas. 𝗪𝗶𝗹𝗶, he has become many because he wants to further increase his enjoyment. So how do we understand that he is self-satisfied at the same time he creates? So we should know the creation is not happening outside him. From where is he creating? It's not something outside him that he has created. It's from inside himself. He has created none. See, for a person who is not Atmaram, Swati Mataji, something wrong with you. You're always unmuting yourself. So when a person is not Atmaram, what will that person do? I will depend on someone whom I have not created or whom I have not produced, who is outside me for my enjoyment. But when Krishna is creating or Vishnu is creating, he's creating from where? He's producing that soul from where? From some external source? It's just coming out from inside himself. Inside himself, right? Without any extraneous help. So that manifestation of the jiva is actually a manifestation of the Lord's potency to enjoy. When you say the Lord is self-satisfied, it is that nature itself which is expanding in the form of jivas. You know? Because for Krishna, everything is alive. So even Krishna's that nature of being self-satisfied is also alive. And that nature expands in the form of jivas who are supposed to then function as those who give enjoyment to the Supreme Lord. You know. So that's why when you say absolute truth, we'll study in Bhakti-sastri, absolute truth does not mean Krishna alone. Absolute truth means Krishna along with all the jivas put together. That's absolute truth. So it's still Atmaram, isn't it? I'm not separate from him. I am a part of him. So he's enjoying whom? When he's enjoying with me, he's enjoying
Himself.
whom? He's enjoying
Himself.
Right? Isn't it? He's enjoying himself. Like for example, you see women, they play with their hairs, right? And they can spend hours doing that, isn't it? And they have fun doing that. So who has made those hairs? Those hairs have come out from the body of the lady itself, isn't it? And then the body, when she's playing with those hairs, or she's deriving some happiness from those hairs, will we not say she's having fun with herself? No, right? She's enjoying herself, right? Similarly, the Lord has created the jivas, but those jivas are part of the Lord, not outside the Lord. So he's enjoying with them means he's enjoying himself, with himself. Right? But in our case, we'll have to depend on someone outside us, extra to us. That's how we can understand. Okay, anything else?
So Prabhuji, if we enjoy with our own self, are we being selfish?
We will not be able to know. The problem is that the Lord can. And we can also, but the example which I gave was just to explain that point. But we can also enjoy with the self, but that would mean enjoying in the real self. The body is not really me, you know, the real self is Atma. So we can also become Atma Rama, which means enjoying the self in the qualities of the soul alone. But that enjoyment is not complete because that is Brahmananda. I am spirit soul, I am very happy, I am eternal. But beyond this Brahmananda is the Seva Ananda, the joy of doing Seva, service to the Supreme Lord, who is Parabrahman. So the Atma Ramas, self-realized souls who are completely happy in themselves, they also take relish in serving the Supreme Lord because that gives greater enjoyment, much more happiness. So it's one Brahman serving another Brahman. That's the understanding. Okay, making sense to all of you? Yes. All right. Fine. So now let's go to the next mantra. The next mantra is Mantra number 8. Let me see if I missed to mention something. Yeah. Now, this kind of vision, which is explained here, anupashyati, one should learn to see it systematically. Last time we discussed that. How do I develop that vision? From where do I start? So this vision is a matter of consciousness. Someone who has that elevated consciousness will have this kind of vision. Consciousness defines all of our experiences. How we experience this world is not a matter of the experience, but actually it's a matter of my own consciousness. If my consciousness is pure, my experience in this world will also be very sweet. But my consciousness is not pure, then my experiences in this world also will be very bitter. So this kind of vision has to be developed by associating with personalities who have such a vision, with such sadhus. And there are 3 steps to associate with such sadhus. First of all, it requires hard work to understand the qualities of a real sadhu. Not just because sentimentally I like someone, because of that, that person becomes a sadhu. It requires a little hard work to find actually a real sadhu, because you'll have to search out who is that person who has the qualities which are mentioned in the scripture that person should have. So it requires first that step, hard work, to understand what are the qualities of a real sadhu. And second, then you search them out. Who are those people who have those qualities? And the third thing is, even if you have found such people, you have to be in their association and learn from them how to cultivate those qualities. Then this kind of vision development is possible. So we have to know what are the real qualities of a sadhu. We have to find such a sadhu, and then we have to associate with such a sadhu and learn from such a sadhu how to see like this, the vision of oneness, ekatvan, anupashyataha, right? Because such real sadhus, they are always finding opportunities to give love back to Krishna. And at our level, where do we start? We can start at our level just by making this little shift in our thinking, that every single person whom we are dealing with, that person is a devotee of Krishna, whether that person knows it or doesn't know it. That person may know it, that person may not know it, but actually that person is a devotee of Krishna. So when I start seeing people around me, or I try to see people around me with this consciousness, which means I see you in a more devotional way rather than seeing you in a more material way. I see you in a more devotional way. Then I align myself with that energy, and this will foster the vision of oneness in me more and more and more and more. And one day, by that association, I will become with such vision. Okay. So next, let's go to the next mantra. Mantra number 8 is the last one in this second section. Saparyagat shukram akayam afranam ashnaviram shuddham apapavidham kavir manishi paribhu swayambhur yatha tatyuta arthan vidadat shashvatibhya samabhyaha. Such a person must factually know the greatest of all, the personality of Godhead, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without veins, pure and uncontaminated, the self-sufficient philosopher, who has been fulfilling everyone's desire since time immemorial. These are the qualities of whom? These are the qualities of the Lord, perceived as the super soul or Paramatma. So one who develops this vision of oneness will be able to see the super soul. How do you see the super soul? I had explained this in Bhagavad-gita classes. We don't see the super soul, or we don't see the soul through the eyes. We see the super soul, or we see the soul through the perception of the qualities that the soul or super soul has. not really that we see a form and that form is super soul and that form is soul. That may occasionally happen to you, that you will see a form of super soul. But here, when you say seeing the super soul, it basically means seeing these qualities. Seeing the soul means seeing the qualities of the soul. Inconceivable attributes of the Lord are explained in this mantra 8. Okay. So mantra 8 describes how an exalted pure devotee sees the Lord after it was described in mantra 6 and 7 about his vision of the world and the living entities in relation to the Lord. First quality, akayam and asnavira. Akayam, asnavira. Baladeva Vidyabhushana gives very beautiful explanation to this. So this is a little technical section. Please have little extra, forbearance in understanding this subject because it may not be very interesting. However, it's important if you want to sometimes address people who are impersonalist and they misconstrue meanings of the scripture. So here you see Baladeva Vidyabhushana gives very beautiful explanation. He says, akayam asnaviram. What does kaya mean? Kaya. If you know little
Body.
Body.
Very good. Thank you. Deha means kaya, right? Generally. So akayam would mean no body.
Which is not body. Body.
Right? No body or without body. Correct? That's what akayam would mean. Now, after that, there is another word, asnaviram. Asnaviram is without any veins. Veins, veins, right? So, Baladeva Vidyabhushana says, if I tell, there is a person I know, and because of some misfortune in his or her life, he doesn't even have a house these days to live in. If I say so, right? This person does not have a house. Then do I have to say in the next statement, he does not have a kitchen also? No. Right? If I say that person doesn't have a house, I don't have to say he doesn't have a kitchen. It means quite clear, right? You don't have a house, can you have a kitchen? Right? So Baladeva Vidyabhushana says, if it's already said in the mantra, the Lord is without body, why there has to be a word, he is also without veins? If you don't have a body, you'll not have bones, you'll not have flesh, you'll not have veins. Are you understanding the logic here? But it is said he is without body and is also without veins. So this doesn't seem to be correct. So Baladeva Vidyabhushana Prabhu then therefore explains how we should understand these two. So akayam can have two different meanings. The one meaning is, which is the general meaning people take, without body. But akayam has another meaning, that is unembodied. Now, are you able to see the difference between these two meanings? Without body and unembodied. What is the difference?
Prabhuji, without body means that there's no body, and unembodied means free, like not enclosed or not encapsulated in anything.
Okay. Anything else?
Not conditioned.
Not conditioned.
The body which doesn't is not made of material matter.
Okay. What else?
Without
Something
body
like
gives a
Advayam.
conception.
There is no difference between body and soul.
Body and
Okay. All right. Good. Anything else?
Without body gives a conception of impersonalism, but unembodied gives a conception of spiritual.
Spiritual. Okay.
In material world.
Yeah, fine. So without body means no body, and unembodied means not given a material body by the material nature.
Unencumbered.
Right? Not given a material body by the material nature. That's the meaning of unembodied. We all are embodied. We have been given a body. The soul has received a body from material nature, isn't it? But here the Lord is not like that. And asnavira means no veins, right? So why there is repetition? So this is something very interesting. Try to understand. When Upanishad was taught, or Upanishad used to be taught to the students, the teacher would know, these people who are my students, most of them, they are having more of inclination towards impersonalism. Because in the Vedas, different books are meant for different audiences. Okay. Those who are jnanis, they'll naturally get attracted towards Upanishads. And those who are devotees, they'll naturally get attracted towards more devotional scriptures such as Srimad Bhagavatam, the Puranas, like that. So when a person would be teaching Ishopanishad or any Upanishad, that person would know that my audience is full of impersonalists, or those who are inclined towards impersonalism. So let's say the teacher is saying, he is Akayam, the Lord is Akayam. So the student may take the meaning in a wrong manner. Oh, so he doesn't have a body? And then the teacher will rectify. No, he's Asnaviram. And the student will understand, okay, he has a body, but not a body like ours. Our body has veins, but the Lord's body does not have veins. But he has a body, but not like us. His body is different. So that's how the student would understand, okay, this is the meaning that you're trying to explain to me. He has a body, but his body is without veins, which means it's a spiritual body. My body, material body, is made of material veins. It's like a machine. So this is how you see technical this book Upanishad gets. You really need to use a lot of brain to understand Upanishads. Not very easily understandable. The meanings are indirect. The explanations are indirect. So Srila Prabhupada writes something here. Okay, we'll just read the purpose one by one, paragraph by paragraph. All right. Uttam Indulekha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam Prabhuji. The purport of Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Here is a description of the transcendental and eternal form of the absolute personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is not formless. He has his own transcendental form, which is not at all similar to the forms of the mundane world. The forms of the living entities in this world are embodied in material nature, and they work like any material mission. The anatomy of a material body must have a mechanical construction with veins and so forth. But the transcendental body of the Supreme Lord has nothing like veins. It is clearly stated here that he is unembodied, which means that there is no difference between his body and his soul, nor is he forced to accept a body according to the laws of nature, as we are. In materially conditioned life, the soul is different from the gross embodiment and subtle mind. For the Supreme Lord, however, there is never any such difference between him and his body and the mind. He is the complete whole, and his mind, body, and he himself are all one and the same.
Thank you.
Next paragraph. Ritesh Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhu. In the Brahma Samhita 5.1, there is a similar description of the Supreme Lord. He is described there as Satchit Ananda Vigraha, which means that he is the eternal form, fully representing transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss. As such, he does not require a separate body or mind, as we do in material existence. The Vedic literature clearly states that the Lord's transcendental body is completely different from ours. Thus, he is sometimes described as formless. This means that he has no form like ours, and that he is devoid and that he is devoid of a form we can conceive of. In the Brahma Samhita 5.32, it is further stated that with each and every part of his body, he can do the work of the other senses. This means that the Lord can work with his hands, accept things with his legs, see with his hands and feet, eat with his eyes, etc. In the Shruti mantras, it is also said that although the Lord has no hands and legs like ours, he has a different type of hands and legs, by which he can accept all that we offer him and run faster than anyone. These points are confirmed in the 8th mantra through the use of words like Sukram, meaning omnipotent.
Thank you. So omnipotence means what? Here we get a very different meaning to the word omnipotence. Here, Srila Prabhupada defines omnipotence as that the Lord's every single sense has the ability to perform the work of the other senses. That's called omnipotence. His eyes cannot just see, his eyes can also hear, his eyes can also taste, his eyes can also touch, his eyes can also smell, which means every single part of the body of the Supreme Lord, the transcendental body of the Supreme Lord, can function like the other parts of the body of the Supreme Lord. Now, think about it in a more deep manner. When one of your senses can act as all the other senses in the body, what is it going to facilitate? When a particular sense in your body can act as all the other senses in the body, what does it facilitate? What does it facilitate?
Sense gratification.
Sense gratification. Okay. Or you can say greater sense gratification, right? Isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. So when
can you repeat, please? I couldn't understand.
When one sense of your body can act as all the other senses in the body, what will it facilitate? Means what it will help you to achieve? It will help you to achieve greater sense gratification. You know, greater sense gratification means which means you can enjoy more, isn't it? Like if you are really having delicious food in front of you, but you have only one tongue and one mouth, you are limited by that one tongue and one mouth to enjoy. But let's say every single part of your body turns into tongue and mouth and can give you that experience of taste, then your enjoyment will increase multiple times, right? It will become multifold experience. Similarly, if you are seeing something beautiful, but you just have two eyes to see, then your enjoyment is limited by those two eyes. But if you have lots of eyes to see, then your enjoyment increases. You'll be so much more happy because the experience will be more complete, more full. So the Lord is omnipotent because it facilitates greater sense enjoyment for the Lord. He can do anything from any one of his limbs. He can enjoy completely. But we are limited to enjoy. We can only enjoy a particular sense object through a particular sense organ. We cannot enjoy otherwise. Next paragraph. This also speaks about Lord's omnipotence. Let's read the next paragraph. Sada Harinam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yes.
The Lord's worshipable form, Archa Vigraha, which is installed in temples by authorized acharyas who have realized the Lord in terms of Mantra 7, is non-different from the original form of the Lord. The Lord's original form is that of Sri Krishna, and Sri Krishna expands himself into an unlimited number of forms, such as Baladeva, Rama, Nrsimha, and Varaha. All of these forms are one and the same personality of Godhead. Similarly, the Archa Vigraha worshipped in temples is also an expanded form of the Lord. By worshipping the Archa Vigraha, one can at once approach the Lord, who accepts the services of a devotee by his omnipotent energy. The Archa Vigraha of the Lord descends at the request of the Acharyas, the holy teachers, and works exactly in the original way of the Lord by virtue of the Lord's omnipotence. Foolish people who have no knowledge of Sri Ishopanishad or any of the other Shruti mantras consider the Archa Vigraha, which is worshipped by pure devotee, to be made of material elements. This form may be seen as material by the imperfect eyes of foolish people or Anishtadhikaris, but such people do not know that the Lord, being omnipotent and omniscient, can transform matter into spirit and spirit into matter as he desires.
Okay, fine. All right, let's take a short break before we meet again and continue.
Yes.
Okay, please join back. Right. Yes. Premavati Mataji, please read this paragraph. You're not there. Srinivas Gopal Prabhu, would like to read? Okay. Unable to unmute. Now you can try, Mataji.
Hi Krishna. In this mantra, as well as in the other Vedic mantras, it is clearly stated that the Lord has been supplying goods to the living entities from the time immemorial. A living being desires something, and the Lord supplies the object of that desire in proportion to one's qualification. If a man wants to be a high court judge, he must acquire not only the necessary qualifications, but also the consent of the authority who can award the title of the High Court judge. The qualifications in themselves are insufficient for one to occupy the post. It must be awarded by some superior authority. Similarly, the Lord awards enjoyment to living entities in proportion to their qualification, but the good qualifications in themselves are not sufficient to enable one to receive awards. The mercy of the Lord is also required. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna. So Krishna is an unconditional giver. Unconditional giver means he gives and gives without actually expecting for us to, reciprocate. He has been given since long time. But people in this world, they are not unconditional givers. When they give something, they do definitely expect something in return. Some appreciation, some recognition, some favor, or if they feel valued, then they'll continue to give. But Krishna is not like that. Krishna has been giving to all of us since the beginning of our existence. And that's why his love for us is called unconditional love, which means he's very benevolent and has been giving forever. But on what basis he gives, that's not blind. Srila Prabhupada mentions here that he gives in proportion to what people deserve, how much they deserve. And also there is some mercy factor, which means sometimes he may also give much more than what we deserve. But Krishna never gives us less than what we deserve. Either he'll give to us what we deserve, or he'll give to us more than what we deserve, but not less than that. So understanding that, a devotee has to be always very grateful and thankful to Krishna, that whatever you have given to me, it has been your mercy upon me, that you have given actually maybe much more than what I deserve. So I should not complain. I should not have grudges against you. I should not feel bad about it. I should just happily accept it. Next paragraph. Okay. Yes, next paragraph. Srinivas Gopal Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for giving up. Ordinarily, the living being does not know what to ask from Lord, nor which post to seek. When the living being comes to know his constitutional position, however, he asks to be accepted into the transcendental association of the Lord in order to render transcendental loving service unto him. Unfortunately, living beings under the influence of material nature ask for many other things, and they are described in the Bhagavad-gita 2.41 as having divided as slayed intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is one, but mundane intelligence is diverse. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.3, 30-31, it is stated that those who are captivated by the temporary beauties of the external energy forget the real aim of life, which is so to go back to Godhead. Forgetting this, one tries to adjust things by various plans and programs, but this is like chewing what has already been chewed. Nothing else. The Lord is so kind that he allows the forgetful living entity to continue in this way without interference. Thus, this mantra of Sri Ishopanishad use the very appropriate word yatha tatha yathas, indicating that the Lord rewards the living entity just in pursuance of their desires. If a living being wants to go to hell, the Lord allows him to go do so without interference. And if he wants to go back home, back to Godhead, the Lord helps him. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So the Lord helps him based on the kind of desires the living entity has. If the living entity has the desires to be a devotee and a servant, the Lord will help and give such kind of intelligence. And if the living entity has a desire to be independent, then the Lord will also give intelligence in that direction. Yes. Next paragraph. Paribhuhu is the greatest of all. No one is greater than or equal to him. Other living beings are described here as beggars who ask goods from the Lord. The Lord supplies the things the living entities desire. If the entities were equal to the Lord in potency, if they were omnipotent and omniscient, there would be no question of their begging from the Lord, even for so-called liberation. Real liberation means going back to God. And the last paragraph. We'll read this paragraph. I'm sorry, not all will get a chance to read today, but let's see. Sarvadev Giridhari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Only the Supreme Lord is the self-sufficient. When Lord Krishna appeared on the earth 5,000 years ago, he displayed his full manifestation as the personality of Godhead, though his various activities. In his childhood, he killed many powerful demons such as Aghasura, Bakasura, and Shaktasura, and there was no question of his living acquired such power through any extraneous endeavor. He lifted Govardhan Hill without ever practicing weightlifting. He danced with the gopis without social restriction and without reapproach. Although the gopis approached him with the paramorous feeling of love, the relationship between the gopis and the Lord Krishna was worshipped even by Lord Chaitanya, who was strict sannyasi, right?
Just a second.
Was a strict sannyasi and rigid follower of disciplinary regulations. To confirm that the Lord is always pure and uncontaminated, Sri Ishopanishad describes him as a Sudhama, antiseptic, and 𝗵𝗶𝗶. He is antiseptic in the sense that even an impure things can become purified just by touching him. The word propellastic refers to the power of his association. As mentioned in the Bhagavad-gita 9.30-31, a devotee may appear to be sudurachara, not well behaved in the beginning, but he should be accepted as the pure because he is on the right path. This is due to prophylactic nature of the Lord's association. The Lord is also 𝗵𝗶𝗶 because sin cannot touch him, even if he acts in a way that appears to be sinful. Sinful action for a good God. For there is no question of his being affected by sin, because in all circumstances he is Sudham, most purified. He is often compared to the sun. The sun extracts moisture from many untouchable places on the earth, yet it remains pure. In fact, it purifies obnoxious things by virtue of its sterilizing power. If the sun, which is material object, is so powerful, then we can hardly begin to imagine the purifying strength of all powerful Lord. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So the last paragraph, it describes Krishna's quality as irreproachable, which means no one can punish Krishna for doing something wrong. Of course, Mother Yashoda can, but that kind of punishment is different. So as such, no one can sue Krishna to a court case that you did this thing wrong and that's why you should be punished or you need to pay a fine. Nothing like that. And also it's mentioned he is 𝗵𝗶𝗶 and Shuddham. Srila Prabhupada has used his medical background in writing some of these words. He's prophylactic in nature, he's antiseptic in nature, which means sin cannot touch Krishna. Any person who is sinful will come in contact with Krishna, and that person will get transformed, will get changed. And this is something which a devotee understands. You know, a devotee has this faith that I might be very sinful, I might be the lowest of all, I might be very fallen, my past might be very bad, but Krishna is much more greater than that. Whatever wrong I have done, whatever sins I have committed, Krishna is so pure that since I have come in contact with Krishna or Krishna consciousness, all the wrong things I have done in the past, they all can get nullified. They all can be cleared up. So devotee has this faith and understanding. Otherwise, a devotee would never be hopeful or won't be able to stay hopeful. And I've done so much wrong in the past. Now, if I have to personally clear up everything which I have done wrong, won't be possible for me. But if I depend on the Supreme Lord, who is so pure and so powerful, just like the sun purifies all the waste materials. Anything comes in contact with Krishna, the sun purifies it. Similarly, if we come in contact with Krishna, we can also be completely purified. So that's explained here. Okay. Something else I wanted to tell, but I forgot. Yeah, you know, this is something which Srila Prabhupada so deeply understood, and that's why he had the faith that if I take this Krishna consciousness all across the world, and I give Krishna consciousness to even people who are very sinful in nature, they'll be able to rectify themselves and become pure souls. He had this faith. Not that he was thinking, oh, they are so fallen, how will they ever change? No, he had so much faith on Krishna's ability to transform people. So he said, let me give Krishna to everyone. And by Krishna's association, they will change. Their hearts will change. You know, they'll become purified, completely purified. So he had this strong faith that Krishna is completely pure, and anyone comes in contact with Krishna can also become completely pure. All right, we'll stop here. Vidyabhushana Prabhu. Will Krishna do anything wrong? Is it a relative statement that Krishna will do wrong? I did not understand what exactly you are saying.
Hare Krishna, Guru. You were telling that nobody can punish Krishna. So is it somebody has to do wrong, then he has to be punished? Where Krishna will be doing wrong, is it in a relative statement? For me, if I do expect Krishna want to do this, then only if he didn't do that, Krishna did wrong to me. Isn't it related to my statement? Because Krishna does know the future and present and past. So he does the action based on that basis. And also based on the karma, whatever action happens. And we think that Krishna didn't give us, he did wrong to me. That becomes, he is to be punished or something. It cannot be told like that. It is a relative statement based on this personal, that reason I'm telling you. He cannot be punished or he cannot be, he does wrong anything. He knows everything, so he cannot be, he will not do anything wrong, I believe. That's what I say.
Yeah, he will not do anything wrong. But then if someone thinks though that Krishna has done something wrong, if someone thinks, like I just said, it's a relative understanding. If someone thinks so also, still that person cannot punish Krishna. Yeah, Krishna cannot be reproached. That's what Prabhupada is trying to say, that Krishna cannot be reproached for anything, which means it may appear to some people that what he is doing is immoral, irreligious, unethical, you know, he's being unjust. But then even if they think so, they cannot punish Krishna for it. It's out of their capacity to do it, right? It's irreproachable. That's the explanation is giving there.
Adding to it, Prabhu, where Gandhari had cursed Krishna, so it can happen as well, right?
Yeah, but then when we understand in Mahabharata that Gandhari has cursed Krishna, it doesn't mean that because she cursed Krishna, so Krishna had to go through some experiences as a result of that cursing. When she cursed Krishna, Krishna could have easily said, I don't accept your curse. But then Krishna said, okay, let this also come. Right? So that was his choice. If he says, I don't care, no problem. There won't be any problem, any such consequence of it. But he says, okay, let it come. So if a person is open-heartedly accepting a curse like that, how can that be called a curse? Right? Curse means something which will make you suffer, make you miserable. And Krishna said, okay, let it be so. In fact, what Gandhari said, that was something Krishna himself was thinking. How will I finish up this Yadu dynasty? You know? And Gandhari said, okay. So Krishna said, thank you, Gandhari, you helped me. I was thinking, how will I take them back? So you helped me by cursing me in this way. So Krishna, no one can punish Krishna.
Thank you, Guru.
Thank you. Any other question? End here. So if your hands are up for reading.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanan Pranam, Prabhuji. Just Srinivas Gopal, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in this sloka, the two words you have explained, but I have relative doubts to the two words, like Akayam and then Asnaviram, because we means after seeing Ramayana and then Mahabharata, in some places the same Shastras explains that the blood is oozing, like in Bhishma's fight between Krishna, blood is oozing from the body. And in Ramayana also there are so many places that Indrajit and hit the Rama and Lakshmana had fallen unconscious and blood was oozing and they were treated with medicine and everything. And then we see Krishna also was shot by the arrow of his Vali, and then he left his body and he's left his body for Arjuna to cremate like that. So how we can understand in related to that same Shastras, you know, like the Kayam is not the body and it's embodied, and it's not a material body which doesn't have veins. Can you explain, Prabhupada?
Yes, thank you. So here, what is being told to us is that you understand the Lord does not have a material body, which means he doesn't have material veins, which means he does not have material blood and flesh and bones, right? But when the Lord is doing the pastime, Leela, of fighting, if blood is coming out of his body, there's nothing wrong because he can create anything out of his body. It doesn't mean that now he has lost so much of blood, he has to go to a hospital now and then have blood intake, you know, because blood has reduced in the body. You know, he can create liters and liters of blood and still not become weak, right? Isn't it? So that's part of the pastime that he is doing as a part of Leela. So here, what is being tried to explain to us is that we should understand his body is not material like that of ours. That's the only message which is being given to us in the Upanishad when we are studying. When we are studying books like Ramayana and other books, there the purpose is not to teach us that Krishna is like this. The purpose is more what? Now relish Krishna's pastimes. Enjoy Krishna's pastimes. And immerse your mind in Krishna's pastimes. Absorb yourself there. Understand? The purpose is different, no? The purpose is not the same. That what the text wants to teach us. So Krishna can show blood, Krishna can show anything. Right? He can create liters and liters of blood and it can come out of his body. He won't bleed like us, but all right, it's part of his pastime.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhu. I just put in chat. I just read it actually. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, when soul leaves the body, it's soul, meaning it's spirit. So it's complete and free. How to understand this freeness to freeness of soul as freeness of soul in as spirit soul in spiritual world. Soul is a soul, it's becomes free now. So now that it doesn't have a body, so that spirit to the spirit, other spirit, what we are talking, how do we conceive this?
I do not understand. Said the spirit.
I am soul, no, bro. We are soul. We are spirit souls. The spirit
Yes.
soul is now free from the body.
Yes.
After that, that spirit soul is spirit soul and it's free. And that is spirit soul in spiritual world.
The other spirit souls also in the spiritual world.
No, when we go back as a spirit soul,
Yeah.
what happened? We don't have a body there, right? So it's
we have a body. We have a body. But then body is not this body which you have now. No, that is a spiritual body.
I know, but when it's the body, now the spirit soul leaves the body, its spirit soul is free, no? Then it
free from what?
From this body, material body.
Yeah, it's free from material body, but it has its spiritual form.
So why it has to go back to it is now where actually between that period it is what? It's spirit soul, right? So we are full.
Please try to understand, Prabhu. The spirit soul is not like it's not like a formless entity. The spirit soul has its spiritual form, which means it has its spiritual hands, spiritual legs, spiritual face, spiritual senses, spiritual mind, spiritual intelligence. All that is there with the spirit soul. The spirit soul means it includes this form, it includes the mind, it includes the intelligence, it includes itself. All right. Now, when that spirit soul becomes materially conditioned, covered by the three gunas, that spirit soul develops an external covering, a layer. These layers are of two types. One is a subtle layer and one is a gross layer. That subtle layer is made up of material mind, material intelligence, material ego. And that gross layer is made up of the 5 elements, Panch Mahabhut. All right. So when you become free from these external layers, what remains is your original nature. And what is that original nature? That original nature has a spiritual form, a spiritual identity. In that particular form, you are back again. It's not that you develop that form. That form is there, it's with you. It's not that you have developed that kind of form. It's there with you. It's just that that form has now become covered over. You have lost the sense of that form. That's how it is.
So when become that spirit soul,
you don't become spirit soul. You are spirit soul, right?
Okay.
You are spirit soul. It's just that from outside that layer, the covering has gone away.
Then when we become spirit soul, then we are spirit soul. Whether in Goloka or anywhere, it's spirit soul. No? That's where yes. How the spirit soul, that spirit soul, we are different.
When you are in a pure state, you are spirit soul only. You don't have a material body, you don't have a material mind. But then that spirit soul in pure state, it cannot be in material world. Why am I in material world? Because I have a material body, no? If I become free from the material body, I'm out of material world. It's not that, I have left my material body and still I'll be hanging inside the material world. How will I stay in the material world? If I don't have a material body, I cannot interact with the material world. It's not possible for me, right? So you become free from material body and mind, you are out of material world. You are then in the spiritual world. And in spiritual world, you will exist as spiritual reality with your spiritual form. Right?
Yes.
So it's not like that, you come out of the material body and then you are transported from the material world to the spiritual world. No, as soon as you are free from material body, you are actually in the spiritual world. Your consciousness has reached there already. You're already there. That's why it is explained. It is just it's a journey of just a moment, and you are back. It doesn't take so much time. You're just in a moment back to your original position. You're understanding? Only for us to picturize, it is said, okay, a Vaikuntha airplane will come, you'll sit on that, and then you'll go back, which means it will take time. But it's not like that. It happens immediately, just like that. That within that moment itself, the plane comes, you sit on it and you go back. It's so fast. It's not that, you started your journey here and after 6 days you go there. Oh, it's immediate. You're free. Okay. All right. We have some more questions. It is said that the real goal of life is to go back to Godhead. But if we are still on junior stage, we cannot remember we have a home spiritual world, and we don't remember those warm experiences at home. How can we want to go back? Even though we always say, let's go back to Godhead. But how much really we want to go back if we don't have firm faith? Another question is that we know those acharyas, they are not back to Godhead and still preaching in other species even after that. How do we understand this point? Is that the same situation as going back to Godhead? Okay. All right. So how will we develop the desire to go back to Godhead? Because we have forgotten how it is to be, how was it to be there? We have forgotten that experience. Yes, we have forgotten that experience. It is true. But that experience is revived again in us when we meet a devotee in this world who is going through that experience. So when we see a devotee in this world who is completely pure, then when we look at that devotee and observe that devotee's activities, words, behavior, thoughts, and suddenly it strikes to us, oh, I wish I could also become like that. That's the most pure state. So then you develop that intense desire. Now I want to go back to God because I want to be like this person who is a pure devotee of Krishna. So then that revival comes out very strong and fast. That's why it is said in the scripture, one should become fortunate by associating with pure devotees of Krishna. Then you develop that desire. Yes. Next, we hear that our acharyas are back again in preaching. Yes, so when you become purified and you're back to the spiritual world, you can expand yourself and have multiple identities. So then one identity of them is that they are in the spiritual world serving Krishna. And another identity of them is that they are also preaching in the material world. They are at both the places. It's not that they are only here and they are not there. They are there also and they are here also. A pure soul has a capacity to expand himself or herself and be in both the places at the same time. It's possible. Okay. It's possible. They can do that. What is the difference between omnipotent and omniscient? Omniscient means one who knows everything, and omnipotent means one who can do everything. All-knowing is omniscient, all-powerful is omnipotent. The word omni means all. So omni means all and potent means powerful. Omni means all, scient means one who knows. So God knows everything, God can do everything, right? Which is opposite to the nature of a human being. A human being cannot know everything, a human being cannot do everything. Okay. A non-devotee asked me why the deities in temple are different, not same image. Fine. So you can explain to them that just like you also, they have different expressions on your face. And if I take a photograph, in those photographs, you'll be seen with those different expressions. So different deities means different expressions of Krishna. All right. Hare Krishna Prabhu, maybe a silly question. That's okay, no problem. When the soul reaches the spiritual planet, we have the own spiritual form and body. My question is, our size is 1/10,000 size of the hair size. Okay, what will be the size of the soul in spiritual planet? Well, we discussed this in Bhagavad-gita. This statement, 1/10,000 size of the hair, You don't have to take it literally. It's a metaphorical perspective that you have to take, not the literal meaning. Okay. You have to take the metaphorical aspect that the soul is very tiny and very small in comparison to the super soul. But exactly, we cannot define the size of the soul in material terms because the soul is not material. So how can you say the soul is having a material size? All right. So I hope it makes sense. This mantra describes some of the qualities of the Lord. What are the scriptures specifically describe his qualities? This mantra only describes the quality of the Lord as Paramatma, not as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, Krishna. Right? These are qualities of seen in Super Soul, Paramatma. Now, for Krishna's qualities, we have Bhakti-sastri. Lots of qualities are mentioned there. Why can't the impure thing touch or contact with the Lord? Because when they come in contact with the Lord, they no longer remain impure. They become pure. They lose their nature of impurity. Because Krishna's purity is so powerful, it's not getting affected by the impurity. Okay? How to understand the Lord is avranam here. Wait a second. All right, avranam. It is explained, Mataji. Avranam is explained. Avranam means without reproach, right? We discussed that at length. Without reproach, avranam. All right, Usha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, just wondering that the souls which do not get a body, they are actually placed in Pitra Loka.
They are not without body. They don't have a gross body. They still have a subtle body.
Okay. And then
They are not completely without body.
Okay, they have a subtle body. But when do they get the material body? When we do the rituals?
Their body is already material. Subtle body is not spiritual. That is also material only.
Okay, okay.
Right? Subtle body is also material, but it is subtle. So when will they get a gross body? They will get a gross body when they are qualified to receive it. Fine?
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
All right. Hare Krishna. Last, Tulsi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So my question is, in the spiritual world, is it true that all of the leelas that we know about and hear about in the scriptures, they are continually being sort of executed or on the go in the spiritual world? And if so, then do we have like the personalities like Ravana and all of the ones that we consider demonic natured to also be there in the spiritual world as well?
No, there are some pastimes of the Lord which he doesn't perform in the spiritual world. And for that pastimes to be performed, he has to come to the material world. So like killing of demons. So he does not do those pastimes in the spiritual world. There are no demons there. So he has to come to material world to perform such pastimes.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
There are such pastimes like that, Yes. Gopi Manohar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. I just wanted to, I had one doubt, Prabhuji. You said that spirit soul is in its pure form. When it is in the material, it takes this gross body. And when we go to spiritual world, we say that we attain our swarupa or spiritual body. So is there a difference between this pure spirit soul form and that what form we have in spiritual world?
It's the same.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Varsana Leela Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is in the regard in the previous discussion we were having where you were telling that acharyas can also expand themselves and be in the spiritual world and in any other material space. So, so far acharyas are nitya siddha, Prabhuji. But what about us? We are nitya baddhas. When we go to spiritual sky, then can we also expand ourselves like that, or?
Yeah,
for
because
us?
when we go to spiritual sky, we also become Nitya-siddhas.
Okay. Okay, so we can also transform and be like this Nitya-siddha. It's not like Nitya-baddhas will forever be Nitya-baddhas and Nitya-siddhas are fixed Nitya-siddhas.
No, Nitya-baddhas can become Nitya-siddhas.
Okay.
Yes. Hare Krishna Mataji, Rajshri Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, he wants to ask you something.
All right, go ahead.
Krishna Prabhuji, if I in a spiritual gopa body, can I turn it to cow?
Yes, you can. Immediately you can become a cow. It's possible.
Thank you, Guru.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sanatan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, just one question. This Mahabhagavat and Uttama-adhikari, are they one and the same, or Mahabhagavat has it's a little bit on a higher side?
Mahabhagavat is, you can say, the highest level of Uttama-adhikari.
Okay.
There are different levels of Uttama-adhikaris, no? So highest level of Uttama-adhikari is called Mahabhagavata.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Last, Dev Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat. Prabhuji, you said pure souls can expand to material world. So do they have to suffer in the material world and wait for liberation?
No, they don't. Though they expand themselves, they don't get touched by material energy. They don't get touched by material energy. They are completely free from it, aloof. So they don't suffer. That suffering is only external. It looks to us like they are suffering, but they don't suffer. Right? To us, it appears like that. But actually, for them, it is ananda. It's bliss. It's complete joy and happiness. All right, Prabhu. Yes, okay. All right, see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Again tomorrow, 11 a.m. instead of 10 a.m.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Wonderful class.
Hare Krishna Mataji.